This morning we have an NBC3 exclusive. It's Breakfast with Your Congressman. Lisa Spitz is live at Stella's Diner in Syracuse right now with Congressman John Katko to ask him your questions. Lisa?
Good morning, Jeremy, and good morning, Congressman. It is so nice to see you. You just got elected back in November. So first, why don't you tell us what's it been like these first few months on the job? What were you most surprised about?
Well, I don't know what I was surprised much about because I was down in Washington before, but the job is pretty much what I thought it was going to be. It just the pace is pretty hectic to say the least. You're going from early morning till late at night every day.
And for people that may not realize, you cover 4 local counties: Onondaga, Cayuga, Wayne, and Oswego. So I know that when you come back to the area here, you're running around to those local areas as well.
Yes, yeah, I have offices in all 4 counties, and so I'm constantly going trying to address needs in all 4 areas. I mean, you got to pay attention to your constituents, and the only way to do that is to be out there talking to them, and that's what we're doing.
Well, I appreciate that you're having breakfast with us live on the air this morning. So before we get to the tough questions, because of course we have lots of those, first I have to ask you what you ordered.
Blueberry pancakes, eggs over easy, and bacon.
Oh, sounds good. I got the banana pancakes. All right, so we're going to have a really good breakfast. But I want to start with a serious issue right now because you're going to get back in session next month, and Iran is one of those issues you're going to be deciding about. The president coming out very strongly with his plan. What are your thoughts on that? How do you plan to vote?
Well, I mean, to borrow a phrase from Benjamin Netanyahu, it's just a bad deal. It's a bad deal from jump. The biggest thing they said as a goal when they were starting the negotiations with Iran was that they wanted any access anytime, anywhere, instant access. And at best, for example, the military bases where most of the nuclear weapons programs are conducted, they have a 24-day notice they have to give. That's what they got it whittled down to. And that's at a minimum. And so if you want to go to a base to inspect anything they have there, you have to give them notice, and then it takes at least 24 days, and maybe as much as 60 days before you can even get access to that base. That's not anywhere, anytime, and that really makes me worried about that and a lot of other things.
What would you say to people that are for the plan? They're saying that the information that they can get from there, though, if they do have to attack Iran, at least that information would help in that case.
I don't know about attacking Iran. No one's been contemplating talking about attacking Iran, but it's just verification. How can you verify what's going on when you have to give them a month's notice or close to a month's notice before you can even get into the place to verify it? So they could play their cat and mouse game, their shell game. It's clear from their past conduct that they don't adhere to international sanctions or international treaties. They violated the last 20 agreements they've had.
All right, Lorraine, thank you very much. So that you're going to be a no vote. That's what you're saying.
Well, I think so at this point, yes.
All right, well, we're going to have lots more questions. And if you have any questions, you can put them on our Facebook page right now because we're going to get to viewer questions as well. But for right now, we're going to send it back to the studio and to Pete.
This morning we have an NBC3 exclusive. It's Breakfast with Your Congressman. Lisa is live at Stella's Diner in Syracuse right now with Congressman John Katko to ask him your questions. Lisa?
Jeremy, thanks so much. I have to say the food here is fantastic. We are loving the pancakes. We have lots of issues to talk about. One of them I want to talk about is 81. This is a big project that is coming up. Obviously, this is something here in Onondaga County. It's local, but what kind of role are you going to be playing in this project?
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to get involved at the Transportation Committee down in Washington was because of the 81 project. It's going to be the biggest civic project in the history of this area, so I wanted to make sure I was on the right committee to help them. About 80 to 90% of the money, probably about 80%, is going to come from the federal government. It comes in a block grant through the state, and the state then administers money locally. The dialogue I had so far is to make sure that in the final analysis, at least one of each of the options is still on the table. And in the initial report that was going to come out, that wasn't the case. So now we're going to have one at least of each of the options. Then, of course, big picture issue, we got to get the highway bill passed so the funding is there for it.
I'm going to put you on the spot right now.
Sure.
There's some options out there to replace the existing highway, tear it down, do a boulevard, do a tunnel. Which one do you like the best and why?
Well, now I'm going to sound like a politician when I'm saying this, but I'm not taking a position on which one's best. I want to make sure that community dialogue's out there. Whatever the community coalesces behind, I will be the biggest cheerleader for that project. My job is not to say which one I think is right. My job is to listen to constituents, put together the best possible project, and then be their biggest cheerleader and help get the funding.
One of the biggest issues we have had so many water main breaks in the city of Syracuse this year. We had a similar story last year, and we are just dealing with aging infrastructure here in upstate New York. So what are you doing right now to help out this issue? Because it's only getting worse every year.
Well, there's funding mechanisms by way of loans loans. You're not going to just get a huge grant. And the days of what they call earmarks are over. So I can't just get money appropriated through the earmark process because it doesn't exist anymore. So the best way to do it now is try and get grants or low interest or no interest loans for municipalities. And I've spoken to Mayor Minor about what ways we can help, and we met with her in Washington and here in Syracuse. So we're going to continue with everything we can to help them.
All right, Congressman, thanks so much. We're going to let him eat some of his pancakes. We're going to send it back in the studio, and we'll come back out here in just a bit. Guys, back to you.
5:50 right now. This morning we have an NBC3 exclusive. It's Breakfast with Your Congressman. Lisa is live right now at Stella's Diner in Syracuse with Congressman John Katko to ask him your questions. Lisa?
Jeremy, right now we're going to turn to a viewer question. This one is from Jennifer. And Congressman, she is asking you, how do you propose that Medicare be reformed?
Well, we've already reformed Medicare this term, and it's one of those things that flies under the radar but really shows that this Congress is doing something. There's a thing called the doc fix with Medicare, which fixes the compensation rates at a more permanent and concrete level. And to do that, you had to reform the parts of Medicare to do it. They've been trying to fix it for 17 years, and we fixed it this term. And that's a big thing for especially rural areas, because doctors need to have set rates that they understand, or they're not even going to treat Medicare patients. So that's a very big thing. And that's the biggest reform of Medicare in the last 20 years. Going forward, we have to make sure it's solvent. And that's the big thing we have to do. And we're continuing to look at that issue. Paul Ryan and the rest of the people on the Ways and Means Committee, that's their job. And that's what we're all working on. And I think we're going to make some progress on that.
I want to talk about a local issue Senator Chuck Schumer's gotten involved in. He's spoken out against, and that is a proposed halfway house on Tip Hill. Where do you stand on that? What do you plan to do about that?
Well, I've worked with the halfway house through my job as a federal prosecutor since it came into Syracuse, and that was a long time ago. It's a great place where it is now, and to move it to a residential area, to me, is a colossal mistake. Because when you have criminals reorienting themselves to society, and if you're a federal criminal, you're very serious felonies usually. And so you really have to make sure that temptations aren't there. You're a couple blocks, first of all, from a Boys and Girls Club, which is you're trying to keep people off the streets, and you got people that are hardened criminals or people that have been convicted of crimes going back in that area. That plus the bars in the area, in the residential area, it's just a bad mistake to move it there if they're contemplating that. We're going to stop it, I think.
All right, Congressman, thanks so much. We're going to have more questions coming up, but for now we're going to send it back inside.
All right, Lise, thank you very much. 6:05 right now. We have an NBC3 exclusive for you. Breakfast with Your Congressman. Lisa is live with Congressman John Katko at Stella's Diner in Syracuse right now. Lisa?
Hi, Jeremy. We've been here for the past half hour enjoying breakfast. How are your pancakes, Congressman?
Outstanding. There are way too many, though. My gosh. Very good.
I know. Really, really good. Well, we have a really serious topic that we're going to ask you about right now. Recently, there was a rally in downtown Syracuse, and some people had signs, and they're asking you to pledge not to vote to defund Planned Parenthood. Can you tell us exactly where do you stand on this issue? How would you vote?
Well, I mean, you can't put the cart before the horse. You have to do the investigation first. And this whole discussion was born out of the fact that some videos surfaced, undercover videos, which alleged to be showing that Planned Parenthood is engaging in the sale of body parts and body tissues from aborted fetuses. And so if that's true, violations of federal law may have occurred, and certainly of medical standards. So we can't decide, you can't really say what you want to do until you do the investigation. You have to do the investigation first. And I'm for a full and fair investigation, but I want to make it clear there's a role for the federal government to help women in their health care needs. And so no matter what happens going forward, we have to make sure we provide for that.
And that was the point I was just going to bring up. That issue aside, a lot of women use Planned Parenthood. That's the only way that they get those life-saving tests. So where else would they go? What would you say to them?
Right. Well, I mean, the federal government spends a lot of money on the non-abortion side at Planned Parenthood. And if it ultimately comes to a point where Planned Parenthood's not going to be the one providing those services, someone has to fill that void, and we have to make sure that continues uninterrupted for individuals. But, like I said, it's at the beginning. Like, I've been a federal prosecutor for 20 years. You never conclude about a homicide case or any case until you do a full investigation. We have a full investigation, which you really need first here.
So when exactly do you get to that conclusion?
At the end of the investigation. And that's coming up this fall, I think.
All right, Congressman, thanks so much.
Sure.
Well, stay with us because we're going to have more questions for him. And if you have a question, you can put it right now on our Facebook page. Let's send it back inside.
All right, Lisa, thank you. Right now, we continue our NBC3 exclusive. We're sitting down with Congressman John Katko to see where he stands on important issues. He's live at Stella's Diner in Syracuse right now, where he's speaking with our Lisa Spitz. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning again, Jeremy. We've talked about some important issues. We're going to talk about more. But right now, let's ask you some personal questions. This is interesting. You're down in D.C. quite a bit of the year, and you actually sleep in your office.
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Well, like I said during the campaign, I wanted to stay focused on what's really important. That's my constituents in Central New York, and I don't ever want to get comfortable in Washington. I want to go down there and I want to do my job, and I want to get back and be with my constituents, and of course, be with my family. And I think, the more comfortable you get down there, sometimes you may forget what's really important, and I don't ever want to forget that.
So how does this work exactly? Where do you sleep? Do you sleep on the couch or where?
Couch? Yeah, I got a couch. It's a pull-out couch, and I just, right there.
Okay.
I wait for people to leave my office and meetings are over, pull out the couch, and that's it.
Where do you shower?
There's a gym downstairs that I can go to, so I have my suits there, and I go down in the morning, and I hope nobody has a camera in the morning when I'm walking down to the gym. My hair is sticking up, and then I just go and work out and shower.
I'm wearing purple for a reason. I usually wear it every election day, but I'm wearing it specifically today because you really live in a purple district here.
Absolutely.
Your district is, purple. It went from Republican to Democrat to Republican to Democrat back to Republican. So basically you get elected and then it's like you have to start raising money the very next day for your re-election. So how do you balance that living in a district that really could go either way? Well,
you got to recognize that, and you got to be an independent voice for the people in Congress, and that's what I've been doing. I vote across the aisle. I work with people on both sides of the aisle, and you have to do that. You have to. The other party is not your enemy; that's your friend, and you've got to work with them to get anything done. Bipartisanship is not a bad word; it's a good word. And I wore purple tie my election night too, and I didn't steal it from you, but I did do that, and I really believe in that. That's how you're successful in Congress. I have more bills passed than anyone in Congress, I think, right now. And as a freshman, it's because I reach across the aisle and get things done, and they're serious bills.
Who's your closest friend across the aisle?
Across the aisle, probably Kathleen Rice from New York City area. She's in Long Island. She's a co-chair of my. She's like the minority ranking member of the subcommittee that I chair.
All right.
She's a good friend.
Well, coming up, we're going to ask him about Donald Trump and the upcoming presidential election.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, that's coming up, so stay with us. Let's send it back inside.
It's Breakfast with Your Congressman. Lisa Spitz is live at Stella's Diner in Syracuse right now with Congressman John Katko to ask him your questions. Lisa?
Jeremy, thanks so much. And right now we're going to take one of your questions. This question, Congressman, is coming from Lisa Townsend. She is asking you what you're doing right now to address an issue. She says that veterans are waiting far too long in line at VA hospitals. What are you doing right now?
Well, I know locally the VA hospital is terrific. It's consistently rated one of the best in the country, but that doesn't mean that we can't improve. And if there's issues there that they need help with, by all means, call our office. We deal with constituent services all the time, and we'll be happy to help them out and help through their problems. Make no mistake about it, though. Congress is taking the allegations about VA very seriously nationwide, and we're addressing them as we hear about them.
I have to ask you this morning about the upcoming presidential race, because there are a lot of Republicans in the field right now. So first, let's talk about the man that's taking up a lot of the airwaves, Donald Trump. One word, how would you describe him?
Ubiquitous.
But, I want to say this because he's drawing large crowds. People are really paying attention to him. So he's obviously tapping into something out there. So as a lawmaker, what are you learning from the response that he's getting?
Well, I think that he's speaking in plain language, and he's not speaking with a lot of theoretical answers. He's just giving a straight talk, and people, the American people, by and large, are still fed up with Congress, and I perfectly understand that. That's why I got off the couch at home and ran for office and gave up my job. And I feel a lot like he does, and a lot like some of the people in the country do. But, make no mistake, this race is at the beginning. I liken it to the beginning of the Kentucky Derby, and we're maybe at the quarter pole of a 1.5-mile race, And so there's a long, long way to go. He's appealing now, but let's see what happens when they start digging down deep into the specific proposals, and how they're going to fix things. And it's too early to tell right now.
Is he somebody you could get behind and support?
Well, like I said, it's too early to tell. Let's see where the race takes us first.
He'd be answering some of these questions.
What's that?
I said he would answer this question.
Yes.
Who do you think the candidates ultimately will be on both sides, if you had to put it out there right now? Do you think it's going to be Hillary?
I think she's taken on water. I think it's going to be difficult for her in the long run to be able to sustain a real positive campaign. So I think it's going to be difficult for her.
Who's it going to be?
Way too early to tell. It really is. You can't pick a winner this early.
All right. Well, Congressman, thanks so much for having breakfast with us. We really appreciate it.
Sure, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, really good food. And thanks to the folks here at Stella's. Very hospitable.
Yes,
we really
definitely
had a great time. Thanks so much. Pete, let's send it to you.